Hey guys, welcome back to our channel Sfdc Quest. As a part of today's video, we'll explore one concept which is related to setting up your audit fields. We'll understand the result of our poll question that has been posted last week, which goes like this. So we have asked a scenario in our poll question, and the scenario basically goes like this. This is a conversation between the client and the developer. Assume you are the developer and client is asking a couple of questions related to his or her requirement. And the requirement is they have a legacy system. They have some data in their legacy system. They want to import that to Salesforce. So how can they do that? They can use data loader where they can take an extract from the legacy system. The client would give them an extract of the data in an Excel sheet in a CSV format. And we would take that extract into a data loader tool. And once you select the right object, you would be importing the data into your Salesforce when the object and everything is set up according to the data that is coming from your legacy system. This is the normal process. Now, everything is smooth till this point. Now, client has a question saying that they want the exact replica of the data that is there in their legacy system. So if you have the right data type, it would be exact replica of the data. What is one thing that is bothering the client? So in their legacy system, the record or the data might be created, let's say last year, right? So it might be created in last year and some data might be created 2 years back or 3 years back. So now the created date on this data would be, let's say 2021 or 2020, right? So it could be somewhere around 2017, something of that sort. And the created by and last modified by would be a different person. Let's say here it could be some A, here it could be B, here it could be A, right? So they want to capture this information also because they wanted to get the exact replica of the data. Now, if you are doing it with the data loader or if you are creating a record, now what would happen by default, whoever the person creates that record, that person created date and created by would be stamped by that person. Same goes with your last modified by and last modified date would also be stamped by the person who is doing that operation. So if I'm doing the operation, my information would be captured here. So this is not something that the client is expecting. So now what he's asking, can I modify the created date and created by fields when I'm inserting these records into Salesforce? That is what he's asking. Like, can I get this fields also be copied into Salesforce? Whatever that I have in the information from the legacy system. So he's asking, can you do it? Now, these are the results that we have got from the poll question. Let's, for time being, forget about the answer. In case if you have selected third option, so one thing is, even though if you do not know this point, I know that the no spelling is a little wrong here. If you're working in a business environment where a client asks you a requirement, as a tip, what you can know from here is, you do not have to say yes or no. Always you can tell them that you need some more time to check this point and you can confirm them later. So you do not have to get into a trouble of saying yes and later realizing that you cannot do that requirement. It would create a bad impression. So my suggestion would be, if you're not sure, check the documentation, check for the resources that are available online. Then you can confirm to your client. So that is the best approach. In case if you do not know anything, do not commit blindly. Check that information and you can just let the client know that you'll be working on it and you can confirm them once you have a POC that's done on your org. So that is what you can do. And if in case if the client is putting you on the hot seat, this is one approach that you can take forward. It applies for any situation, not for this one. All right, client would be happy enough to know that you will be working on it, and then upon having a proof, you will confirm it. So it is always a good sign to take some time and get the thing sorted before committing on something. Now coming back to this point, so what exactly client is asking? He's asking one thing, that his created by field and last modified field should be as per the extract that is given. Now, can we do it or not? So that means we need to check it in our org, like I've said. If you are not sure, check it in your org, try, give it a try and see if it works, then confirm. The poll question shout out goes to this person who has answered the poll question in our comment section. Let's understand this point in detail as a part of our today's video. let's quickly jump onto the Salesforce org and quickly check out this point and see what are the things that we need to think about. So I'm on my Salesforce org. I've created a small snippet of code. What it is doing, it is basically creating an account record. You might be wondering, we were talking about created by and last modified by, and why are we creating an account record here, right? So if you see here, any record that I create from the UI, I do not have an option to modify the created by and last modified. So I do not have authority to change those fields. So what are these fields called? I'll open a record that is there in my org to show you this point. So if you see here, if I go to the details tab, I can see this fields, which is created by, which is a combination of two fields. One is the created by, which gives me the information of the person who has created it. And the other part is like, when is that field been created? So this is your created date field. So this is your created by ID field, which talks about the person who has created it. And this is the date on which it has been created, date and time on which it has been created. Same goes with last modified by and last modified date. What is the collective name for these fields? The name of this collective fields, or the fields that are helping us to track this information, we usually call them as audit fields. It's a common name that is given to address these fields, or occasionally you'll also call them as system fields, which basically helps us understand the basic information related to the record on when it has been created by whom and when it has been last modified by and who is the person who has last modified it. So that is the background of why we call them as audit fields. Now the question is, can I modify them when I'm creating this record from the UI? The answer is no, because you do not find those fields on the UI when you're creating that record or editing that record. Now the customer is saying that, or the client is asking us a question saying that, can you modify or update those fields? Can you get the exact fields that are there on the extract into my org? We can do this exercise from the data loader also. For time being, since it would be a different process and it might take some time, what I'm quickly doing here is I'm taking the help of my developer console anonymous window to replicate the same scenario. So you can do this approach by creating a record from your data loader also using the extract and everything, right? In case if you want the additional details on how exactly you need to do the data migration and everything, we have already have a migration series where we have talked about what is code migration and data migration. I'll leave a link on the top. Feel free to check that out in case if you need more details. Do let us know in the comment section. We can come up with another video according to your question. So I'm creating a simple account record from my anonymous window, replicating the same process of creating the same thing from a data loader. Upon clicking on execute highlighted, what would happen? An account would be created in my org. So the same thing we have done this exercise so many times in our channel. So if you see here, an account record has been created. The point that I wanted to call out here is, so if you see here, as in when I create a record, the created by and the last modified by is been updated with the information who is doing it. So if you see here, this is the username that I'm using. So it is stamping that value. And this is the date time when I'm creating this record. Since it is a new record, the last modified by field also would have the same information because there were no edits that happened on this record. So these values would be same. Now what is happening if I'm using Sfdc Admin as a user? When I create a record, it is stamping my values in my created by and the date time is captured accordingly. When I have created this record, it is capturing that date time. This is not the client expectation is. He wants to capture it, whatever that information that is there in his legacy system. So when I say legacy system, like we have discussed, it is a system that is something that the client was using earlier before moving into Salesforce. It could be Salesforce system or it could be any system also. So the data would be something older version or it would be an older data, right? So created date and the created by would not be the same person who is doing it. It could be same or it could be different, but it would not be the same date time that has been stamped here. Now, how do we edit this fields? That is the question. So how do we kind of populate these values when a record has been created? All right, so let's do this. Now what we'll do, let's do this process of adding these fields while we are creating our record. So what I'll do, I'll quickly go to the account object and show you the API name of this field. So the API name for your created by goes like this. This is your API name. It's a lookup to user. That means I need to pass an ID of that user for which I want this field to be populated. So since I know this account record I'm creating, what I'll do, I'll pass a user ID to this field and see the behavior. Right? For that, what I'll do, I'll quickly get one user record so that way we can test it. So I have a test user, right? So I'm copying the ID of it. So this user is not the user who is running this record creation from the anonymous window. So I, as an Sfdc admin, I'm running this record. So if I run this code, what would happen? Pause this video for a second and give it a thought. Would it be created or would I be getting any errors? So in 3 seconds, I'll reveal the answer in 3, 2, 1. If I click on execute highlighted, it is throwing me an error saying that the field is not writable. It is saying that you cannot modify this value. So that means even though the requirement is to set this value, which is this created by field, system is saying that no, you cannot write the value into this field. Does that mean that the answer to the question that we have asked in the poll is no? We'll just explore that point a little. For time being, the result turned out to be no. With this setup in my OR, the answer turned out to be no. Shall we tell to the client saying that this cannot be done? We need to wait for a moment and understand the next part of the thing that I'm going to discuss with you. You need to explore a few more things before confirming. Just that this point might give you an understanding that it cannot be done, but you need to explore, are there any other things that you need to consider before confirming to your client? The point that you need to notice is, what are we trying to set? We are trying to set the audit fields. So I've searched in Google and this is what I found. So this is a knowledge article which talks about how can we achieve this requirement. Now let's look at the setting that we need to set. So that way we can allow the users to edit or make changes to this field. So what is the first thing that we need to do? We need to go to setup and to the user interface. So let's go there and set this up, and we'll come back to this article and see what are the other things that we need to consider. So we need to go to setup. So I'm already on my setup. You can click on this gear icon, click on setup, and that is where you land onto this page. Search for user interface. Right. So here is my user interface. Click on this link. A page would come up. In this knowledge article, they're asking us to enable this setting. So what exactly this setting is all about? So let's quickly search this setting. Where exactly it is? Here is the setting. So what it says, enable set audit fields, which we have talked about. Audit fields are nothing but that created by, created date, last modified by, and last modified date upon record creation. So if you read this point itself, it talks about one important point, which is you can set your audit fields only at the time of record creation. That means once the record has been created, you cannot go ahead and edit these fields. That is one point that you need to remember. There is a second setting, which is something that is irrelevant for time being, and you can also explore this point whenever you have some free time. Since our main point of interest is this, setting the audit fields upon record creation, I'll focus on this video. Right, so what I'll do, I'll enable the setting. I'll check this checkbox, and what I'll do, I'll click on save. So our first step is done. So what we have told the system, yes, there are certain users or there is a requirement in my OR where I need to set this audit fields at the time of record creation, only at the time of record creation. That is an important point that you need to notice. Now, once I have enabled it, if I run this code, will it be successful now or not? Give it a thought and feel free to write down your answers in case if you have pen and paper with you. So if I click on execute, again it is throwing the same error. That means there is something that is not yet done properly. What is that? So to let you know what exactly the profile that I'm using for this user, it is nothing but a system administrator profile. So if I go to the system administrator profile, so it's a standard profile. So what is the other thing that we need to set up for this one is you need to also set this value in your profile. So after enabling that setting in your user interface, there is a second step that you need to do, which is nothing but set audit fields upon record creation. This is a setting that you need to give to a profile or a bunch of users, depending on how you want to design it. Let's say you can give it to a certain users under a profile using your permission set. You need to enable this setting. So if I search for this setting, I can find it here in my system administrator. If you do not find it, the point that you need to check is, if you go to your user interface, the setting that we have enabled earlier is not been set. So if you go back to your user interface, if you do not find that setting, that means the setting that we have enabled previously was not being set. If this checkbox is unchecked, you will not find this setting in your profiles. So we have this setting now. So let's see if we can go ahead and edit this point. So I click on edit. And if you see here, it is not something that I can make a change on. Now, is the step 2 that we are trying to follow from the knowledge article wrong? The answer is no. We are on the right process, but the thing is, with the standard profiles, you cannot make changes on all the settings. For that reason, what you can do, you can go ahead and create a permission set for standard profiles and assign it to the users who are assigned to that profile. Now, what about custom profiles? For custom profiles, there is no such issue. So there is no such limitation as such. You can go ahead and modify your custom profile. So let me show you that part also. Then we can test the code that we are having in our developer console. So here is my custom profile. I've created it some time back. So I'm just opening this custom profile to show you that difference. Right. So if I search for this field, again, I find it. So now the point is, can I edit it or not? So I'll click on edit. It's a custom profile. How can you say that it's a custom profile? If you scroll to the top, there is a checkbox which says custom profile tick. If that is checked, that means this is a custom profile that you're dealing with. If you see here, this setting is enabled for me. So I can go ahead and check this checkbox and save it. So what happens now? Any user who is connected to this profile can go ahead and create a account record or any record by setting the created date and the other audit fields that we have talked about. So that is point number 1. So second step, point number 1, if it is a custom profile, you can go ahead and directly set this value. But for standard profiles, we are not able to edit it. Then what we need to do? The next answer is, the next best solution is, the solution is go to your permission set and create a new permission set where you can enable that setting. Again, what are permission sets? Permission sets are nothing but always extends what a user can do in Salesforce. It cannot downgrade what has been already given to your profile. So that is an important point that you need to keep in mind. So since it is a audit field that we are setting up, so I'll go ahead and just name it like this, create audit field permission, and I'll keep the license as Salesforce. Right. And once that is done, click on save. What we have done, we have created a permission set. So where do I find my permission that I'm after? I can search it here and it is under system permission. You can use this find option to find out your permission that you're looking for, or you can, if you know that process, you can scroll down, open the system permission where this permission resides, and you can edit it. So since I know the value that I'm looking for, I'll search it here and I can click on that link. So system would show me where exactly this is. So what it says, sets audit fields such as created by, last modified by, when a record is created, API only. That means you cannot do it from the UI. So I'll click on this permission set, search for that setting, check this checkbox, and I'll click on save. So what we did, we have created a permission set where we wanted to extend this access to the standard profiles, which are like system administrator, and other standard profiles where the requirement is to assign the created audit field values upon creating a record. So we have created a permission set. What is the next step? The next step is to assign it to a user. Quickly note down the steps that we have followed. First is the user interface where we have enabled a setting called set the audit fields upon record creation. That is what we have enabled. Step number 2, on the profiles, if it is a custom profile, we have enabled the setting called set audit field upon record creation. If it is a standard profile, what we are doing, we are taking a different route, creating a permission set, and now the next step that we are doing in this process for the standard profile is assign this permission set to the user. So now what is the next step? We need to go to the user that I'm using and assign this permission set. This is my user. I'll scroll down and here is the place where I can assign my permission set. If you see here, I've been connected to a system administrator profile. If I scroll down, I can go ahead and edit the permission set here. I can go ahead and add the permission set here. So I look for the permission set that we have created, which is create audit field permission. I'll just add this permission set and save this. So now what happened? This user has the ability to modify those audit fields that we have talked about. Now select this code and I'll click on execute highlighted. If you see here, this time I'm not being presented with the error that I was seeing earlier where it says the created by field is not writable, right? Instead, I was able to create a record. So how can we check that, or what we'll do? We'll just change this name so that way we have a better understanding. I'll say test account 2. I'll rerun this code so that way I can show the record on the UI. So if I go back to the accounts tab, I should be seeing a record which is test account 2. If I open this record and look for this created by, it is set to test. And if you see here, the last modified is still stamped with the name of the user who is running that code. So it is my user which has been stamped here. But I was able to modify the created by field. What exactly we can conclude from here? If you follow the two-step process where you enable that setting from the user interface and assign that permission set for the standard profiles, or a custom profiles where you have this profile setting where the set audit field upon record creation is enabled, you can go ahead and modify these fields. Can we modify the last modified by field also? Yes, we can go ahead and do it. Just that you need to know the API name for this field, right? I'm setting the same value because that is the active user that I have in my org other than the system administrator user. I'll select this code, click on execute. Okay, so let's change this one a little. I'll just name it as 3 and execute it so that way you can quickly identify this records. So if you see here, test account 3 is being created, and if I scroll down, this time both the fields were modified. So this is how you can basically make use of your setting which enables you to make a change on the audit field. Right? So remember, if it is a standard field, you need to create a permission set and assign it to the user. If it is a custom field, you can go ahead and give the access at a profile level. In case if you do not want to give it to the larger audience under your profile, what you can do, you can use the same permission set and assign it to a single user who is doing that activity. All right, so that is all for this class. Hope you have liked it. In case if you have such questions on how exactly you need to do certain operations, feel free to let us know in the comment section and we can take that up in our next video. Until then, feel free to check out our poll series that we'll be posting. Until then, keep learning Salesforce and happy learning to you. Check out our YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Saturday IST for new videos, and feel free to click on the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified. And I would like to thank all the people who have subscribed to our channel and hope that we'll continue our journey. Feel free to support us by just clicking on the like button if you have liked the video, and feel free to share your feedback on the comment section. We'll definitely check that and incorporate in our next videos. That is all for today. Bye for now. Hey guys, if you like this video, do like, share and subscribe to Sfdc Quest.